Hey guys, had a quick tip again here today. Steve Whittier with 40 Plus BJJ. Um, Standing here with my shirt off, which is kind of weird because I'm not really a get on Facebook with my shirt off type of thing, but there's a reason for it because I wanted to show something real quick that I'm always trying to work on personally. And if you're familiar, especially with my more recent courses like the Pillars courses, then you'll know I talk about this a lot as it pertains to posture, pressure, and general technique. Okay, so your posture. Okay, common problems that we encounter as grapplers, very pervasive, and it has to do with bad posture. So this affects all the way down granularly to your execution of technique, and a lot of times people are experiencing problems with their technique, having their own posture broken, unable to kind of finish things, or because you're somewhat out of alignment on your technique, you have to work so much harder to compensate. One of the main things I've talked about here a lot in the group that comes up time and time again are all the injuries, the wear and tear that comes. A lot of that has to do with poor posture. And then we start to have that parlay into a conversation about longevity, because if the ultimate goal, minus any more short-term or mid-term goals that I have, the ultimate goal, regardless of where I'm at right now in my thinking about my jiu-jitsu, the big goal is to be able to continue to do jiu-jitsu for as long as I live, right? And I know that's going to be true for a lot of you, and especially for people that sometimes rack up so much wear and tear that they think this isn't for me and I need to quit. You know, these things are all part of this overall process, right? So let me get to what I wanted to talk about. So it has to do with what I consider to be sort of the master posture in jiu-jitsu. So there's a few of them, okay? I'd say there's really three postures that we need to talk about in jiu-jitsu, okay? One of them is the neutral spine alignment, which is what I'm going to go into today. I think that's the core master posture in jiu-jitsu, the one that I talk about all the time. There's also sort of the sagging posture like this, where you might not look like you're in great anatomical posture, but you're sort of melting into your opponent, especially when you're playing top game in certain situations. And then there's the hips forward back posture like this, where your hips are in front of your head, which would be more of like a sprawling posture. But the one for structural integrity and to get the most out of your technique that you'll be using most of the time is what I consider that neutral spine alignment master posture. And here's the problem, as you guys are well aware, right? Our whole society right now is like this on phones, okay? I'm guilty too. I also spend most of my day, even though people say, oh, martial arts instructor, you get to train all day. No, most of my day is spent like this on a laptop, which is why I have terrible wrists, because they're all, you know, internally like turned in like this, and everything shortens, and no matter how much you try and stay in good posture, you inevitably wind up slumping, right? So I have to do quite a bit of work to be able to compensate for that, to be able to work my rhomboids and stretch and everything and keep everything nice and mobile. But the problem is, even with really good jiu-jitsu guys, you tend to see this over and over again. You watch them as they sort of get up into their 30s and beyond, and you start to see this guy, right? This kind of internally rotated shoulders, the necks come way forward, and they may be gnarly, they may be muscular, but in terms of the amount of pain that they're going to be in later in life and the efficacy of their technique moving forward, there's going to be consequences, okay? So I really feel it's important, whether you do yoga or Pilates or strength training with corrective mechanisms within there to work on your mobility and your muscle imbalances. It's super important for your technique and for your longevity to address this. So one of the simple ways, I just did a quick sketch, and sorry I'm not an artist. One of the simple ways that I thought was just a very easy way to articulate this, one of the yoga instructors in our organization kind of did this quick presentation, and I thought it was just perfect for what we're talking about. So again, I'm not an artist, but this is sort of the profile. Okay, so the head, this is the base of the neck, cervical spine, and you see that indent right there, right? That natural arch in the back of the cervical spine. Then we come down, and then you'll see the roundedness of the thoracic spine next. Okay, so there, and then you see the arch of the lumbar spine. And really, if we're talking about structural integrity, think of like a solid steel beam, or the center of a carousel. Okay, these are the three break points. These are the three weak areas in your spinal alignment. Okay, so this break, and this break, where there's that arch in the spine. And conditions of the spine often have to do with overarching or basically out of alignment to a greater degree than normal. So the point I want to make is that when we're talking about structural integrity, you think about what is that core yoga posture that they start every class with once you start standing. Constantly talking about a neutral spine. When you were going to do, for instance, a deadlift or a squat, okay, you kind of get that position. That's universal to athletic performance. Okay, when you want to be in the best possible mechanical position, you see this posture being talked about over and over and over again. And so often, even experienced jiu-jitsu people get away from that. And again, you wind up getting submitted more. You wind up working way harder than you need to. You wind up exposing vulnerabilities to your arm position, things like that. But also, again, wear and tear on your body. So let's talk about how people often describe fixing that. Okay, so if I have this break here, and then the lumbar break. Okay, a lot of times people say, okay, so force your neck back like this. Okay, like try and tuck your jaw like basically into your spine. And the problem is, I don't know about you, but this is very difficult to do and maintain, because especially having had some neck issues and injuries, I find that this is very much an impingement and it's not natural. So if I'm not thinking about this right now, I'm going to start to cheat back. So it's kind of force your chin back and then retract your shoulder blades. And again, sort of unnatural, because it's one thing to say I'm aware of my core and of my scapular, my back, my scapular area, like that I'm going to sort of switch that on and just kind of like relax in that structure, but make sure that they're slightly engaged during my regular day. But to actually pinch them back like this is very tedious, and you're not going to be able to maintain that. And then what happens is, when people start talking about, so they start talking about this, and it's uncomfortable. They start talking about this with pinch your shoulder blades together, and you're walking around looking kind of ridiculous, overcompensating here. But also, when you do that, you'll notice that as people do this, their neck tends to crane and pop out because they're so focused on this that they forget about this part. Okay, so that doesn't really help. And then the other thing is, you notice when people do this, then all of a sudden you get this guy arching, right? But I want to have all three. So one of the tips that I've seen in a couple places that really helped me out personally was basically, instead of worrying about forcing this back and pushing this forward like that, is you're just going to take your clavicle area and your trachea here, and instead of having them kind of facing this way, all I'm going to do is throughout the day try and be aware of lengthening my spine and having that area face more at an upward angle. Okay, and automatically, even if you look at my neck, which I'm not really focusing on right now, okay, just by doing that, okay, already my neck starts to move into a better position. And then all I need to do is just sort of slightly move it back, but I'm not feeling that tension back here, okay, through my back of my jaw and the back of my neck. Okay, I'm not feeling all that. Now, that takes care of most of it, but you'll notice my back is still arched, which again lead to lower back injuries and things like that, and I may have tight hips, especially if I drive a lot or I'm at the computer a lot. So then all I'm going to do here is just sort of kind of switch my core on a little bit. I'm not flexing my abs like I'm trying to pose for a muscle shot or something like that, but just simply engaging, and then you'll see that little pelvic tilt, and now everything's neutral. So the only thing I really need to do now, if you see that sort of anterior rotation in my shoulders, okay, is I just slightly roll them back. Okay, now I don't have to be pinched like this, but from here, just slightly roll them back. And I can say for myself personally, this still isn't perfect. Okay, it'd be better if I had a natural pinch here. I'm working on it. And I like to do a lot of isolated stuff, trying to hit these rhomboids back here. That's helped me a lot. But there's a simple thing just throughout your day, okay? Instead of all these kind of contrived postures that you may get into, okay? Just again, okay, stand up nice and tall. Let your clavicle, okay, your upper chest area along here and your trachea start to face more at an upward angle. And then just let your head come up high, okay? Take the arch out of your back so you have a pelvic tilt by slightly engaging your core, okay? Never so it's tiring, but once you have this nice structure, you feel like you can just relax in it. And then from here, just slightly roll your shoulders back, and that becomes very comfortable. You'll notice when I do that posture from here, I don't have to jack my shoulders way up so that my palms are now facing up like this. That's a great stretch, but it's not something I can maintain throughout the day, and I'd look pretty friggin' silly if I tried to, right? But if I do all these other pieces, okay, then, you know, my palms are still facing each other neutral, and it just feels generally much better like this, okay? So I hope that helps, and I do really suggest you work on this, because I've noticed more and more as we talk about, you know, what's sort of the first line of your technical performance. It's your understanding of postures, pressures, obviously timing and everything within that, and then all the techniques, the individual techniques, the possibilities we talk about. Those are way down the line in terms of priority. Unfortunately, that's what most people start with. They try and look for solutions on the outer edge. We're trying to work on the core, and there's nothing more fundamentally important to the core than being able to have an efficient structure, okay? And again, that also has to do with your health and your longevity in the game. So go ahead and work on that. If you guys have any questions, I am not an exercise physiologist. It's been years since I did focus, like as personal training was my job. I did it for a while. There are probably better people on this board to be able to work on that side, but that is something that's helped me a lot, and some other people, as I've talked more about it in my own academy, and I'm sure it will help you too. Okay? Talk to you soon.